Welcome to The Piano Boat. I'm Masa.
And I'm Rhiana. We are both classical musicians and last year decided to take the plunge and commission a wide-beam canal boat for concerts and musical cruises, complete with comfortable living quarters.
Join us as the boat build reaches completion and we begin our journey along the UK's inland waterways.
Hello again from the Piano Boat. As the days get colder and darker here now that we are well into December, we, however, are still living the sunny days of July when the boat was finally delivered to London. Last week we saw the momentous day when the piano was craned in through the hole in the roof where the skylight was going to be. And then it was just a few days later before the launch finally in Watford. That's what we're going to be looking at today as we get a little closer to where we are now as we begin the journey down from Watford to Harefield. As I'm sure you know, it would greatly help us if you enjoy this video, if you give us a like and a subscribe, as everyone says. We would really appreciate it. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you a little later on. It was a day of great anticipation on the marina. Now that the piano is installed, we were waiting for the boat to be raised up off its hard standing and finally launched into the water. It wasn't long before the straps were checked and secured and it was lifted up by the crane. As it was raised up, a huge cascade of water came off the front of the boat. Despite the sunny weather, it must have rained a lot and it looked like a waterfall coming down from the bow. Oh my goodness. So guys, get into your positions for me and then I'll ask you a question. Oh, where's all the water come from? Oh my god. You did move it away from me. It's a lot of water. Where was all that water? Although it was very tense for us watching from afar, the team were completely used to it. And of course, this is the sort of thing they do every day, so they were not fazed at all. It really was quite a spectacular sight, coming towards the water gradually. Slow and steady was the pace, and everything seemed to be going well. But as the crane started rolling forwards towards the water, the boat started to shake quite violently. This was probably quite normal, but we were very concerned for the piano. The wheels have brakes on, but we were worried that it might have rolled and caused a dent in the wall. The sort of thing that we wouldn't have had to think of otherwise. Fortunately, it was fine when we did manage to get on and check it. But this was quite a scary moment. It's quite scary actually. It was quite crazy to think that this giant vessel was being suspended just by these two straps alone. We didn't want to think how strong they might be, in case they weren't strong enough, but of course they were. We needn't have worried. Here you can see as the crane moves forward, it must have gone over a bump in the ground, causing the boat to shake quite violently like this. It finally starts to make its way down towards the water, being lowered gently and held just by one rope at each end. think we'd get pretty wet if they dropped it now.
Don't think they'll drop it.
There were a few curious spectators. Despite this being a fairly regular occurrence at this marina, I suppose you don't ever get used to seeing such a huge boat being craned up into the air like this. This is not the only one they have of this size either. They told us that they had craned one of a similar weight just a couple of days earlier. After so many months of waiting and seeing the boat as it very gradually progressed, we couldn't quite believe that now it was finally going to touch the water and we were actually going to cruise it back to our marina. And touchdown! Here we are. This was just incredible. The whole process only took about 30 minutes from start to finish, but it was definitely a morning that we will not forget. Now all that was left was to undo the straps and for us to get on and try and get out of this tight space, which did involve reversing, but we left that to Jeremy.
Oh, it really doesn't swing at all. It's very stable. This is very good.
It's a bit of a challenge in your first drive, reversing backwards to a load of boats.
Don't think so. No thanks.
We'll leave that to Jack.
And off we go. We didn't fancy attempting this ourselves. We had tried reversing a wide beam down the slough arm once, but the seal on the weed hatch didn't really work, so we ended up taking in quite a lot of water. We didn't particularly want to repeat that process. That wasn't with our boat, by the way.
Out to the marina where we landed.
This is quite exciting.
Point that corner. Tell me when I can bring the bow round.
As Jeremy expertly manoeuvred us out of the marina, the first stop was to get diesel. It hadn't been topped up, so we needed some both for the journey and for the heating. Although we didn't actually use the heating or the diesel engine, as it happened, and just used the electric motor. After all, this was July and it was about 30 degrees on this day. Of course, having a bow thruster was really a no-brainer with a boat of this size, and it's turned out to be an incredibly valuable asset to have on board. We try not to use it where possible, but for tight maneuvers, it's very useful.
Coming in.
After topping up, Masa had a go at skippering. He was pleased to discover that the boat was actually quite manoeuvrable, having done many hire boat holidays where the boat might veer to the left for no apparent reason, or the tiller is extremely heavy and we can't quite figure out why. This was a nice surprise. Despite being such a big boat, 67 by 12 feet, it wasn't too difficult to steer.
This one happened to be. It was alright when we were sort of cruising.
Yeah.
Quite scary when approaching the rocks. How do we attach these fenders? Because Michelle said we should get them out.
Yeah, well, I'll rig something up. I should have brought some smaller diameter rope.
The weather was absolutely gorgeous, and we found such a nice spot on the canal that we actually decided we didn't want to go any further that day. We had planned to try and make it to the marina pretty soon, but actually we didn't really feel like moving, as you can see. The following morning, we set off early on our maiden voyage, making our way down to Harefield Marina.
It's the launch now, today's maiden voyage. Here we are. Good luck flying off.
I didn't want to crack it on the bow because that was a bit wasteful, so that's our contribution to superstition.
Right, thank you very much.
Well, that's that for the quite literal suspense of this boat, this giant canal boat, being craned onto the water in Watford. From there we began the journey down to Harefield, where we are now. It took a little longer than we expected for various reasons, but we are very much enjoying this slower pace of life on the canals, making music as we go. Thank you for joining us again, and we'd be very grateful if you would like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and we will see you next week.